Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sound Off Sports. I'm your host, Mike Davis, joined by my main man, James Edward Barrickman, the fourth. James, I feel like I have balsamic vinaigrette all over. I wolfed down a salad. It was just all over my face. This
smells good. I need one.
You were jealous of this salad.
It looked amazing from Sprouts, right?
From Sprouts, great salad. You gotta love that balsamic vinaigrette. But I was housing this salad, James. It's just sometimes I gotta eat my feelings. I've had a tough week. I thought I was almost ghosted. We thought that happened.
I know, but weren't ghosted.
Listen, everybody. I was a couple dates with somebody kind of liked. I've never been ghosted by somebody I've actually met in person. Like, I've been ghosted by people on, you're on a dating app and you back and forth a couple times and then you never hear back. But I've never actually been ghosted by somebody I've actually made out with, gone on dates with, taken to dinner, all those types of things. So I was terrified that this was going to be my life. And then after how many days? Thursday, because I was there when I crafted the message with you.
Thursday, Friday. It was like 4 or 5 days.
And then I got another response after a double
But she responded.
And what did she say?
I can't remember exactly, but basically she's not looking for anything serious.
Basically, it's one of those, it's not you, it's me, but it really is you.
I think you might have taken this one a little more personal than you needed to.
Yeah. But then we went to Chicken Shack. Had some chicken, talked about it, and you told me a good response to write back.
Yeah. Are we gonna tell the world?
Yeah, tell the world. What was the response?
I told you after she said, she's not really looking for anything serious. I just told you to say, all good, no worries. Leave it at that. All good, period, no worries. Send that off. And that's the end of it.
That's what I did.
Because, it might leave her thinking, you don't sound upset because you don't really need her in the long run. It's okay.
See, this is
moving on.
Everybody, you get a James Edward Barrickman, the fourth, in your corner for life, because it helps. It helps, and there's a lot to break down beyond just my love life. We have a lot in the sports world here in Las Vegas. Listen, Las Vegas is the sports capital of the world now. You got Aces going to the semifinals, taking down the Storm, going out to play the Liberty. That's going to be a great matchup in the semis. You got a lot to talk about. VGK, new look team. Now they're in training camp. So a lot of that kind of stuff. And you're going to be able to hear all of this great breaking down of all sports here in Vegas from Sin City Beat. But here on SOS, we want to fixate and focus on everything that went down with Coach Antonio Pierce and the Raiders and the fallout from losing 36-22 to an 0-2 Carolina Panthers team that had benched Bryce Young, the former number 1 overall pick who's been struggling. They bring in the Red Rifle, 36-year-old Andy Dalton comes in and does his thing. And listen, James, I was at this game from the very get-go. There was no chance the Raiders looked like they just didn't even suit up the play.
I was saying this leading up to the game. And after the game actually played out, I can't believe I didn't see it. Why didn't we see this coming? It was a classic letdown spot for a bad football team, which is what the Raiders are, coming off a massive upset win in Baltimore, coming home now kind of fat and happy, getting what we think was the worst team in the league coming into town with a new quarterback, a veteran, in Andy Dalton, who just so happens to still be undefeated now against the Raiders, comes in, balls out, and kind of embarrasses the Raiders on their home turf after they came off a big win in Baltimore, a really tough loss for AP. And the way he's talking after in the postgame makes it even more concerning.
Yeah, so AP presser after the game on Sunday, he says some players made business decisions. What does that mean? Who is he referring to? What is it all about? That's what we wanted to ask you guys at home, and we got a plethora of responses. James, let's hear one response right now from somebody at home regarding what did AP mean about business decisions.
Mario Serrano on Facebook says, a great leader always takes responsibility and accountability for their entire team's results. Do not blame people under your guidance for their performance. Time for a change. Hyped up huddles and interviews ain't enough to win.
Wow, Mario, very good response there. That's a great response there, James. Listen, yes, I agree. And, a head coach has to take the onus, has to take ownership for how his team performs. He didn't get them geared up and ready to play and
he would
perform
admit
from
that.
the get-go. And he would admit that. But when you're targeting players for basically making business decisions, the way that I took that, James, was basically, okay, this is a guy who's saying certain players gave up on the field. It's lingo for these guys gave up. Is that how you looked at it?
Yeah, that's exactly how I thought about it. People weren't giving 100% effort, and maybe it wasn't right from the get-go. Maybe it was after the game was kind of out of reach, but that's the way I took it. Like guys kind of gave up, like they weren't giving it their all, kind of mailing it in because this game's already over. Why that's concerning is that isn't that why we hired AP in the first place? Because these guys will ride or die for Antonio Pierce because they are going to lay it all on the line for this guy regardless of the score for 60 minutes. And now at this early juncture in the season, we're talking about effort issues. This is really concerning.
It's striking. It's not a good thing. And I think we saw, in the Baltimore game, when we look back to that, they weren't playing 4 quarters of great football. That's the thing. This is a team that's been struggling to keep 4 quarters of good play together. In the first game against the Chargers, poor performance pretty much all game long. Against the Ravens, it was really a late fourth quarter comeback. Most of that game
in the second half.
Like they weren't really doing much for a lot of that game. So I think, the struggle here is that we need to play a full game of good football. And we're not doing that right now. And the Panthers, from the get-go, they just marched down the field play after play, just kind of did their thing with our team. And listen, Max Crosby was hurt. That's the leader of our defense. Yeah. Pressure against Andy Dalton is that's his kryptonite. So if you're not pressuring Andy Dalton and he's got time to just throw dimes in the pocket, he's going to tear you apart. So, Crosby wasn't getting the usual pressure he gets. But like you said, James, I think that's a massive point. The point of having Antonio Pierce as the leader of this team was that these guys are going to be ride or die playing for him down in, down out.
Yeah. I think a lot of this, as bad of a look as this was for the Raiders and the Antonio Pierce staff, I think it might speak a lot more to Bryce Young, and we can get into this later on. But how much different? I won't say good, but how much different did Carolina look with Andy Dalton running the show than Bryce Young? I think that entire game was really an indictment on Bryce Young, of all people.
Interesting. And Dave Canales, new head coach there, was the OC in Tampa Bay last year. We all know how great Baker and the Tampa Bay offense looked last year for the Buccaneers with Canales. So, yes, he really took a stand, and he had some gumption when he was like, after 0-2, I'm a new head coach here. I'm not even taking a second. We're putting Bryce Young number 2 on the depth chart, and we're making a change, and he looked completely different. But let's hear what more people are saying regarding the Antonio Pierce issue.
Michael Nicholas on Facebook says, when a team doesn't show up against an apparently inferior opponent after a big victory, it's on you, coach.
Yeah, I agree right there.
Let's get to Dave Harris here, because I think this is really more what the question was about. Dave Harris on Facebook says, Devontae Adams, he wants out. They're wasting his career by not getting an actual starting QB, made no effort in the draft, and the team is unbalanced.
Yeah, I think that's a good point from Dave, because having direction is not only a big thing in life, it's a big thing for NFL franchises. If you're really not deliberate in what you're trying to achieve day in, day out, and where you are, okay, like it's good to have an identity and understand who you are as a team. You might be a youthful team that's on the come up, and you're just playing for broke and you're trying to figure out who you are as a team. It's kind of being in that no man's land where you get stuck as an NFL franchise. The Steelers know they don't have a bona fide quarterback. They know that. They know they don't have a QB like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. They know that. So, in turn, they're going to try to grind out win after win however they can by using what they have around them, because they feel we're a good enough football team if we know ourselves.
I'm not ready to write off Justin Fields as not quite that guy yet. Obviously, he's not there, but I'm not saying
But
he couldn't get there. But you're absolutely right.
know
The
what-
style of winning post-Ben
Right.
has been, we're going to run this football. We're going to win on the back of our defense. First 1 to 13 wins, all right? And that's going to be our style. Now, the problem with that is that'll get you to 8, 9 wins a year, but you're constantly stuck in the middle of the road. You're never drafting near the top of the draft to get that franchise quarterback. And on the years that you do make the playoffs, you're getting smoked by the teams that do actually have a good quarterback, by Patrick Mahomes, by Josh Allen. It's happened every year since Ben's been.
But at least they have a game plan in place. At least they have an identity, and they know we can win the football game if we approach the game this way and XYZ happens.
Right.
The Raiders have no game plan, no identity, no clue about how they're going to go about winning games. We're supposed to be a team that can run the football.
I think
Zamir White can't run the football. The offensive line cannot scheme and block for running the football. So now you can't run the football. Madison, Zamir White, Amir Abdullah, nobody is doing anything with the football. So now, what do you do? And you can't really pass the football tremendously well because you can't get the running game going. You're not targeting Devontae enough. I mean, it's weird. You would think after 2 weeks, Brock Bowers looks like the greatest rookie tight end we've ever seen. This dude is killing it. He's the #1 tight end basically in fantasy. He's beating everybody. Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, all these guys are getting old. We got Brock Bowers. He was nowhere to be found.
I think they have an idea for how they want to win football games. They are just not executing, or maybe they're just not built for how they want to win football games, because through 3 weeks, the offensive line in the run game has not looked good. Zamir White hasn't had any space whatsoever. And because they can't move the ball on the ground, they don't have the ability to overcome that with their quarterback play, right? So, like, Devontae Adams, he's been invisible. I have him in fantasy. Trust me, I know. Brock Bowers, while he's looked good when he gets the football, he's not been getting the football enough. And so when you can't move the football offensively, your defense is constantly on the field. No matter how good your defense is, if they're constantly on the field, they are not invincible. They're going to start getting tired, fatigued, and towards the later stages of the game are going to start giving up plays and shots and points.
100%. And that's why I think I was making the analogy, not just because you're a Yinzer, James, but because Justin Fields, he's not the type of guy who's in the pocket who's just going to keep, matriculating down the field, dashing and darting little passes here and there to make sure you're getting those third down conversions. They know you got to run for a few yards. We're going to work the offense around you so we can stay on the field, and we have this top tier defense. We don't want to be off the field on 3 and outs for the entire game. So they're making sure they're running the ball. They're committed to that. It's not like, I think a lot of people thought Jalen Warren and Najee Harris were going to be running all over the field and having this tremendous run offense with Arthur Smith now in the fold as OC. They're not running that well, but I think the point is that they're keeping the offense on the field. They're letting their defense do their thing. They have a game plan. You gotta stay true to it a little bit, because we're not able to identify anything right now with this team.
I think it's a little bit of a different situation between the Steelers and the Raiders, where you have Justin Fields, who's dynamic with what he can do athletically and with his legs. The Raiders don't really have that. So, like you mentioned, the Steelers, what we thought they were going to be, we were going to pound the football with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. That really hasn't been the case. It's been Justin Fields making throws, making plays with his legs in clutch situations to get them into 3rd and shorts and to convert those 3rd and shorts. And the Raiders, they're not that. Yeah. That's not been the case for them whatsoever.
Well, this coming matchup, they're going to be playing the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be a tale of 2 dreadful situations, pretty much. I mean, Deshaun Watson, is he on the verge of getting benched? We're going to have to see. They just had a dreadful loss to the New York Giants. So a lot of craziness we're going to have to see with this upcoming matchup.
I want to say this real quick, not to interrupt you, but I want to say this real quick. Long term, the Raiders being bad this season is the best thing for them, because how many games did they win last year? Like 7 or 8?
Yeah.
Took them out of contention to get their quarterback. If you remember in the draft, obviously we're going to get Caleb Williams, didn't get Drake May, didn't get Jaden Daniels.
Right. But we missed out on Penix.
You missed out on Penix. You missed out on Nix. I think the wheels falling off of this thing, and I'm rooting for Antonio Pierce because I think he's a great guy, and he's the players love him. I think the best thing for the Raiders organizationally is for the wheels to totally fall off. Top 5 pick, because this quarterback draft, you could make an argument, is better than last year's.
Yeah, we're seeing guys like Cam Ward. A lot of guys are flying up these draft boards. And listen, this is Tom Telesco's, first time after, the draft of Bowers. He selected him, Jackson Powers Johnson. So it's now his opportunity to make an imprint with this team. I think you're 100% right. And I think if that's the philosophy, if that's the narrative moving forward, well, you got to start cutting your ties and you got to start getting things for the players who still have value. Davante Adams
is not going to be part of the future plans.
He should not be on the roster much longer. He should be traded for something and get him in a position. He's still elite.
You owe it to him, too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Get him to New York. Get him somewhere. Make a trade and see what you can get for him, because we might need to listen, if Cam Ward's the guy, if Carson Beck's the guy, if Shador's the guy, whoever it is, we might finish out by beating teams like the Ravens here and there. You might not be a top 3 pick, but maybe you're 4, maybe you're 5, and maybe by packaging some of those picks you get with Davante, you can move up. So
it's going to be interesting. I think the priority for the Raiders has to be a quarterback, one way or another. Go get you a quarterback in this draft, however it happens.
O-line, quarterback, those are the first pieces we need to fixate on. But real quickly, before we head the break, James, let's hear one more response from somebody regarding the business decision comment at the presser from Coach Pierce.
Jeffrey Clinard on Facebook says, maybe that they decided not to risk a career-ending injury in a game that was a write-off.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to SOS. So we got 5 teams currently in the NFL that are 3-0. Yes, 5 of them. We got the Chiefs, we got the Bills, we got the Seahawks, we got the Vikings, and of course we got the Steelers. James, your Steelers.
Steelers, baby.
Let's talk about this. I mean, puzzling that these are the 5 teams that are 3-0 at this juncture. I think a lot of us maybe expected the Chiefs, but, still.
I think Chiefs and Buffalo, we can kind of sit here and say, yeah, we probably expect those guys. Yeah.
I do think, though, it's fascinating if we're starting with both of those teams. The Bills have looked so great, especially with a new look team. To me,
without Stephon Diggs.
Without Stephon Diggs, it's a great team. Josh Allen is smart with the ball this year. He looks kind of different. The run game, tremendous. He's dumping the pass is off to everybody. You're getting Shakir in. You're getting Coleman.
Everybody's getting the
doing a little bit more.
Kincaid, Knox, Shakir. Like, everybody. He's getting the ball to everybody. And what I thought was really interesting, and I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah.
Threw a little shade Josh Allen did at Stephon Diggs.
Oh, really?
We can presume that it was about Stephon Diggs, but when asked about the start to the season this year for Buffalo, Josh Allen said he more or less said it's great what can happen when nobody cares about their stats.
Wow. I mean, he's got to be talking about Diggs. Listen, Diggs, tremendous player. He's been playing well with the Texans, but Buffalo's a different organization. Stephon Diggs,
city.
He started with the Vikings, then he goes to Buffalo, but the thing is, he really is a guy fit more for like the Houston Texans, for the Dallas Cowboys, an organization like that. Buffalo is very, it's a smaller market.
They're all about just football and buffalo wings.
Exactly, and slamming themselves on, tables outside of a tailgate. Yeah. But, it's about, the team philosophy rather than the stats. And you'll see, I mean, the team is bought in. They look good, and I really like what they're doing. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they don't look as good as I think we anticipated. And I know sometimes they get off to a slow start. People online, as we pose this question, a lot of people are talking about the Chiefs and what's going on with the referees. Let's maybe hear a response regarding that, because I know that's the narrative from a lot of the football watching public.
So this is from Adam Uribe on Facebook. He says, the Chiefs should be 0-3. The referees have missed too many calls. I don't know about 0-3. They have been bailed out by a couple calls and non-calls.
I mean, remember, the first week of the season, Isaiah Likely stepping out, he stepped out.
Refresh me. Oh, who did Kansas City play? Oh, Baltimore.
Right.
Isaiah Likely.
So I mean,
Isaiah Likely stepped
that
up.
was like a win. I mean, that's not the referees coming. He stepped out of bounds, so that's 1-0. There's been some pass interference calls.
They got that call at home versus Cincinnati to get them in the field goal range.
So
and then the non-call in Atlanta on Monday night.
There's that kind of stuff going on. The thing is, Andy Reid puts this team in a position to win all the time. And even though Mahomes has looked poor, I mean, he probably, his second game, the Cincinnati, it was like the worst he's ever looked.
Statistically, I think that was his worst game as a starter. But I think the mark of a good football team, and before I get into that, this is how they started last year. Everybody was writing the Chiefs off. You know, they don't have any wide receivers. They don't have this. The offense isn't as good. Then turned it on late in the year, went and won the Super Bowl. Now they have, better weapons offensively. And I think the mark of a good football team is when you can win football games even when you don't play well. And that's what the Chiefs have been doing, I think, through at least week 2 and 3. Baltimore's a good team.
I think this is where they're going to get stuck come playoff time is you don't have L'Jarius Sneed on the other side of Trent McDuffie now. So you had 2 lockdown corners previously, which tremendously helps, everything with the defense because you have a little bit more time to get to the quarterback. Yeah. So that's number 1. Number 2, Rashee Rice has ascended as a top tier wide receiver.
Stud.
But Worthy and the rest of the team have to do more. And the big concern here is Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Listen, we can make as many comparisons to previous seasons as before, but the big distinction here that's totally different that we have not seen with the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs era is Travis Kelce being a non-factor. And he's a non-factor 3 weeks into the season. I mean, he does not look like Travis Kelce.
No.
And there's been a few games where he had a couple plays called back off some holding where he probably should have had a few more yards and stuff, but there's something different there. What is going on?
The man is getting old. Like, that's okay. He's not Father Time is undefeated, right? He wasn't going to be the same Travis Kelce that we've seen.
Did we think the drop-off was going to be this stark?
I didn't know. And I think really it started last year. Maybe not so much in the playoffs, but you look at his, statistics, in the regular season, the drop-off started last year. And how old is he? 35-ish?
Like 32, 33, 34.
He's 35, 34. He's definitely older than that. But the drop-off was coming. It was just a matter of when. And, I don't think it has everything to do with him losing a step. They probably are. Like Patrick Mahomes said, they're doubling him. They're focusing a lot of attention on Travis Kelce because since Mahomes has been around, he's been their best weapon.
Right. Their teams are probably scheming saying, hey, listen, if you're gonna beat us, you're not gonna beat us by going to your number 1 dude in Travis Kelce. But we asked everybody at home beyond those 2 teams, there's 5 teams undefeated right now in the NFL. Which one are we most concerned about? Which one, is potentially the fraud in this picture? Let's hear another response.
So George Mayfield on Facebook says, Vikes are dominating so far, so no luck required as of now. So Vikings, the not lucky team in all of this?
I mean, I like what the Vikings are doing. The fascinating thing about them is, number 1, defensively they look tremendous. Brian Flores, we all know he's a great coach.
Stud.
So what he's doing with that defense, tremendous. Aaron Jones has looked a lot better than we thought.
Aaron Jones, he's been freed.
Now Sam Darnold looks like he has reinvigorated his career. And the fascinating thing about this dude is, listen, he was a top-tier talent coming out of USC. The Jets didn't like him, but every time he's bounced around, organizations have liked him. He's still a young dude. He's younger than Josh Allen. He's younger than Josh Allen.
And Joe Burrow.
I mean, so he's been in the league a long time. He looks good. He's getting the ball out. I can't get that image of him from his own end zone throwing that like 97-yard pass to Justin Jefferson. I can't get that out of my mind. So listen, this was a team that from the offseason, they had the worst offseason. They had a 3rd-round pick die, right? They had a player die.
Yeah, a player of theirs passed away. And then their 1st-round pick tore,
JJ McCarthy,
season-ending injury. lost Kirk Cousins, weren't supposed to really be a threat.
No.
You
Daniil Hunter's not there anymore.
Yeah. They lost a lot of pieces, but I have always been a Sam Darnold guy. And I think this is the most fascinating thing about what they've been able to accomplish so far is Sam Darnold, his entire career, hasn't really had a competent, offensive-minded head coach to kind of lean on. He started with Adam Gase. I don't count that. He goes to where did he go after the Jets?
He was with the 49ers.
He was with
Carolina.
the Niners. He was with Carolina. And then the Niners, he didn't really get an opportunity to start there. Gets to Minnesota and Kevin O'Connell. And I'm going to go out and say this too. He's been playing amazing. J.J. McCarthy's not going to start for them. He's not going to play for them. Vikings have found their quarterback of the future, and his name's Sam Darnold. He's not going anywhere. Why would they go back at this point?
I mean, a lot of it depends on what happens right now. I think, to me, I love Sam Darnold. I think the praise here, though, is this is really about Kevin O'Connell. I mean, this is high-level coaching.
I think it's both.
And because I think Kirk Cousins, at the same time, I think that some of the numbers and the infatuation we had with him was a lot of situational stuff with what Kevin O'Connell's doing. We're seeing in the NFL, there's a theme. These really next-level coaches can literally win games just from game planning. I mean, That's what Sean McVay did this past weekend against the 49ers. I mean, that's literally just one upsmanship, like of literally a coach one-upping Kyle Shanahan. I mean, that's what Sean McVay did. I mean, they don't have Puka, they don't have Cooper Kupp.
They don't have enough IR spots for everybody they need to put on IR.
And they're still winning games. So, I mean, and we love Matthew Stafford and all that stuff, but I think we start seeing, yes, there's certain quarterbacks that are of a certain ilk, and they're of a certain standard, right? But then there's certain coaches in the league where it's just a different ball game and the way in which they're putting their team in a position to succeed. So, to me, this is the story of Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores.
I think that you're absolutely right? Like you look at like Mike Tomlin, and he's a defensive head coach, but you look at him and how he's been able to win with the quarterbacks that he's had post-Ben. Really impressive. Now you look at what Kyle Shanahan has done, and I know we all like Brock Purdy a lot, but there are much better quarterbacks out there than Brock Purdy. What the Niners have been able to accomplish is way more Kyle Shanahan in that roster than it is Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy.
100%.
And now you see, Kevin O'Connell did it with Kirk. Could have done it with J.J. McCarthy if he had to. Right. Now he's doing it with Sam Darnold. You're absolutely right. If you have it from a head coaching perspective, it doesn't really matter who you're inserting.
You're in a good spot. I mean, let's look at the 5 teams. Let's name the head coaches for the 5 teams. Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott, 2 great coaches.
2 great
who know their
minds.
stuff.
Yep.
Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, boom, we love him. We got Chiefs, Andy Reid, and then the Seahawks with the rookie head coach and Mike McDonald, who, frankly, look at Baltimore. They don't look so good. He was the defensive coordinator for that team. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. So he's kind of more of a game manager, like facilitator, leader type Sirianni guy than most people realize.
Yeah.
We all love Harbaugh's, but Mike McDonald is there. The Ravens have taken a step back because Mike McDonald's not there and he's leading the Seahawks team, and they're a gritty team. They don't look tremendous, but they're actually doing things a lot better than a lot of other teams. I mean, DK looks better. Jackson Smith and Jigba looks better. Run game looks good, So, I mean, defensively, they pulled out some weird wins. Yeah, they beat the Patriots.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's pump the brakes a little bit.
But if there was one team that was the most suspect, it would probably be, in my mind, the Seahawks. But
easily,
for a rookie head coach to come into that situation, take over for Pete Carroll, it's not too bad in my book.
No, and to answer the question that we're posing to people, who has been, is there a team that's lucky to be 3-0? I would say it's Seattle. You just look at the schedule. Who have they beaten? Denver, you got Bo Nix in his first career start. You beat New England, maybe one of the worst rosters in the league. You get Miami without Tua, and you get it done. But I think that's really important, right? Because at the end of the day, this is still the NFL, and you're a rookie head coach. The fact that you are still getting it done, albeit by, against lesser competition, is something to talk about and acknowledge.
100%. And they got, Gino's good. He's not great, and so they're getting things done and they're getting wins when they need to get them. And sometimes you have to win ugly, like Brad Gilbert always says. And that's certainly fine for Seahawks fans. They got to be happy with the situation.
If we're going to take a look at each 5 of these undefeated teams so far, you got Seattle, Kansas City, Buffalo, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. Each of them leading their division. Which of them won't make the playoffs? Will there be one that doesn't make the playoffs?
I mean, it's.
I would have to say Seattle.
Yeah.
If there's a team that's going to have a major fall off, it's going to be Seattle.
They still have to deal with an up and coming Cardinals team with
Shanahan.
Kyler. They got to deal with Shanahan. They got to deal with McVay.
Yeah.
So I think that's who you would have to pick. These are all tough situations. I just know from the eye test. Steelers defense looks scary.
Best in the league.
Bills look like the best, most well-rounded team, I would say.
Good for Buffalo.
And the Vikings just look good. I mean, the
Vikings aren't going anywhere.
They destroyed C.J. Stroud. And
the Vikings aren't going anywhere. They might win that division.
So the fascinating thing, like you said, is really if Sam Darnold takes them to like the NFC Championship, is he now your quarterback?
I don't know how you could go back to him, and that's going to be such a dilemma for them because what do you do with your first-round quarterback?
You do what Jordan Love
season
You keep him. You keep him. Is he young enough? Did you keep him in the wings? And
he's
see,
not young. He's not that much younger than Sam Darnold, which is crazy to think about.
Right. So, but look how careers can develop, and him. I believe Darnold and his agent did a smart thing because it's a 1-year deal. So right. So they're kind of like he bet on himself, and he's going to end up getting paid. So USC fans are going to have to love that. Real quickly, James, as we head the break, let's hear one last thought on this 3-0, 5 NFL team situation.
James Sisko on Facebook says, the Chiefs almost lost to Atlanta on a missed pass interference call, so definitely the Chiefs. They don't look good this year. Whatever is going on between Kelsey and Mahomes is throwing off the team.
All right, well, welcome back. It's time for some sink or swim time here on SOS. So the story that's really surrounding all of UNLV right now, and frankly sports media, is this Matthew Sluka quarterback controversy when it comes to NIL. James, let's talk about this. So Matthew Sluka, let's just break it down for everybody. Quarterback for the UNLV Rebels football team, 3-0, undefeated, heading into this weekend to have some conference play with Fresno State. They were in the AP coaches poll for the first time in program history. A win this weekend would most likely, I believe they're 15 points behind the number 25 ranked team from
a win this
AP
week would
poll.
Most likely get them into the AP.
Yeah, so they would be in the AP poll after a win against Fresno State this weekend. Now, everything's looking good. Philadelphia Phillies, they clinched the NL East. They're popping champagne bottles, and what do they got with them? Bryson Stott and Bryce Harper. They got a UNLV football helmet with them. So this is just a national story that people are so excited about what Barry Odom has done for this football program. Now they're starting quarterback where there was a lot of undecidedness. From a depth chart standpoint, is it going to be Haj Malik Williams? Is it going to be Cam Friel? Is it going to be Matthew Sluka heading into the season? And Sluka became the guy. On Sin City Beat, people have called him a white Lamar Jackson. He's really good with his legs. He's got great hair, but he can't really throw the ball downfield. But it's a good situation for a kid who came from Holy Cross and is at UNLV doing his thing, making a team relevant. Well, he takes to X, formerly Twitter, and says, hey, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's basically like, listen, I was promised $100,000 in NIL money when I came here to UNLV. I have not received that bag of money, and I am going to go elsewhere because of that, and I'm going to wait and you have to take a year off, basically, if you're going to go into the portal, and that's what he's going to do because he has to stay under those 3-4 games of playing because then he would lose the season. So he's going to utilize his red shirt and get one more season of eligibility under his belt for college football. So obviously, when I hear this news, and you text me this late last night and I start diving into this, I'm thinking this is the worst teammate in college sports easily right now. This is dreadful.
The timing of it is not good, regardless of
bad timing, crappy thing to do to your teammates. The one thing I want to say as we dig deep into this conversation, listen, the old days of college student athletes just being, hey, happy-go-lucky, everything is hunky-dory. I'm a college student, getting my books and my classes paid for. No. Ladies and gentlemen, the NCAA, this is not what college sports are anymore. These are professional athletes. They're getting paid. They're getting compensated. There's big money on the line. Jordan Mailata left this place to go not play football, so he could
be a backup.
To be a backup at USC, so he can make $500,000. And I mean, good for him.
I'm not sure how much he's making.
Whatever it is, but good for him. Go do that.
Yeah,
right?
No question.
But
after the season is over.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's just understand it's okay to attack a professional athlete who is making decisions that are beyond himself and are it's a crappy thing to do. I'm not enthralled with this. I don't understand how anybody could be backing this guy regardless of what we know or don't know, because who would do that to a team and an organization, even just for yourself? You don't want to ride the wave of what you're doing right now, the chance to make history? Like, how could this not be figured out? Tell me I'm wrong, James, but that's how I feel.
I'm not ready to pass blame one way or another until I know everything. And as we've seen since the stories come out, late Tuesday night, the story keeps changing because, at first we heard from Sluka's agent, hey, they promised us $100K. We've only seen $3K of that. And there are reports that UNLV said, we'll give you $3K a month, take it or leave it. Sluka and his team said, we're leaving it, and we're done playing here. And we're going to utilize our red shirt. We're going to transfer somewhere else. Now, UNLV's NIL collective has come back and said there was never a $100K agreement in place, and that was never talked about. And because you talked about it, a potential $100K deal with an assistant coach and not Barry Odom, that it was never official and therefore void. There is so much going on. The head of UNLV's NIL collective is the Secretary of State, so probably not somebody you want to go at if you're Matthew Sluka. There are just so many moving pieces that I'm not quite ready to pass blame one way or the other.
But let me just pose this to you. Because we don't know everything, right? We just don't know everything. But we have a show. We got to talk about this.
Right.
So let's just say, offhanded, somebody did say, hey, we'll help you out. We'll get you $100K, right?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't 100% happen yet, right? Well, okay. Given that, that's not great that you were told that and that didn't happen. I'm just saying, what if? Okay?
Okay.
But you're relevant. You're making this team relevant. You're in a situation right now for the rest of your life, the options, the opportunities, the path you're carving for yourself. This is a big deal. This is becoming a national story. The situation, the circumstances that you're in, this is a team sport. You're putting yourself in a position and your team in a position to do historical things. You can't perhaps overlook some of the broken promises and the things that you anticipated were going to come to your future. He's not Archie Manning. He's not Quinn Ewers. No. He's not Carson Beck. He's not going to be...
Probably not an NFL guy.
He's not...
For being honest.
Right. So, I mean, in today's age with inflation, $100K can barely get you a Frappuccino. So, I don't...
That's 2 orders at Five Guys.
I don't understand like how he can't see the forest through the trees. I don't want to act like an old man here, like a grandpa saying, son, you got to see the forest through the trees, you know? You got to see the forest through the tree. But that's what this is. How can you not see the forest through the trees? Where is he? He's going to go back to Holy Cross? I mean, our editor said is Sluka, so the Salukis? What team is that?
Southern Illinois Salukis or something like
so
that.
So that's where he's going to go so he can get, you know, $75K to go be the quarterback of the Salukis?
I tried.
Like, how could this kid have walked into a better situation? From what I understand, he can't throw the football. So, I mean, this is an incredible situation for this young dude. He's going to maybe take UNLV into the college football playoff, and now he's going to get all up in a tiff about a broken I mean, even we don't know. Maybe he wasn't promised anything, but even if he was, this is a bad decision from his standpoint. I don't understand. I don't know how his parents could be.
I try to put myself in his situation. Let's say somebody offered me $100K to go play football for their football team.
Yeah.
And I get there, and I go through camp, and we win week 1 on the road at a Power 5, Power 4 school, win week 2, win a big one week 3 against a pretty good Big 12 team in Kansas. And, you know, now I'm like starting to think, you know, is this $100K is it going to show up? If it were me, I would still be playing. Right? Easy to say because I'm not in this situation, but if it were up to me, I know what I've already been through with this group of guys and this coaching staff and my teammates who are now, because we're going to war every single Saturday, putting our bodies on the line together, right? People I call my brothers. I wouldn't be willing to bail out for their sake because there's a lot at stake that's not just you personally. It's your teammates, it's the coaching staff, it's the university.
But
so you bailing out, you're affecting way more people than just yourself.
This is reflecting upon yourself for the rest of your given life.
Yeah.
So he's not going to get drafted into the NFL most likely. He's not playing professional football after. So let me just understand this. When he goes for a job interview later in his life, the narrative, the story that's going to follow this guy for the rest of his life is, hey, I let my teammates out to dry because I was short-sighted. I was broken. I was broken a promise where I should have got $100K. I was 3-0, maybe going to do things this program has never seen. But this entire program, all my teammates, go F them. I'm just going to go. I'm going to go take care of myself. If I'm interviewing for a job at Merrill Lynch, now that's the guy I want to hire now? Like, for the rest of his life, for everything. I mean, this is just going to follow him. This is such a negative blemish on his entire makeup as a human being.
To play devil's advocate, if your job promised you a certain salary, and they paid you 3% of that salary, would you walk back into work?
I think I would.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Because I would try to do my job the longest I can do it while also figuring out the business side of things. He's an agent. He has people who can facilitate this stuff. So I just don't to me it's being ungrateful and just thinking of yourself and not a single other person. That this is football. This is all about locker room. This is about your offensive line wanting to block for you, not just because they want to do it, because they want to protect you. I'm about to curse because I'm starting
because you're their brother and they want to protect you in the street and also on the football field.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I mean, we're finally being confronted with a lot of the things that people were upset about with college athletics and NIL. Yeah. This is the problem with a lot of this stuff. And we're starting to see it. And the business is taking precedence over,
the game that we love.
Exactly. And it's just and listen, that happens in the NFL. But look, Jamar Chase is going out and playing. People decide
But that's a real contract. And that's part of the problem with NIL is that these aren't contracts. You know what I mean? There's no for, all of the good things that NIL could bring, it's the Wild West. There's no rules. There's no parameters. We don't have contracts, and that's why we're seeing things like this, where in the NFL, if you sign a contract, guys will sit out, but they'll play.
This is, to me, this is simple. This is simple stuff. This is a guy who's conflating his ability with the team's success. The team is not succeeding. If you watch Sin City Beat and you're plugged in, you're listening to the reporters who are actually covering this UNLV football team, the team is not winning because of Matthew Sluka.
Correct.
The team is winning because of the culture, because of the defense, because of the playmakers, because of everything that's going on with the team as a whole, as a unit. Matthew Sluka is conflating his abilities, what he can do for the team's success, and he thinks he can parlay that and bring that somewhere else. I'm just going to tell him right now, you're making a big mistake, because the success you could have achieved with this team getting into uncharted territory, Chop Tobin, boom, he could give you a whole contract to do commercials. Knockfee, Paul Powell, everybody was going to try to, if UNLV in today's age with social media entered into uncharted territory and became a college football team, playoff team in the top 12, he was going to have branding deals. He was going to have name, image, all the NIL money he would want would be coming his way. And now he's going to go settle and go to Southern Illinois to play for the Salukis. So it's bad. This is a bad move.
When you look at those Runnin' Rebels teams from the 90s, right, with
Larry Johnson,
with all the studs, and you look at their stuff of legend now,
right,
in Vegas, stuff of legend. Granted, they were the only show in town back then, but
were they probably getting things on the down low?
Certainly,
probably,
certainly. Where I was going to go with this is, if you're Matthew Sluka, and this was what I think is such an interesting portion to this story, because there's so much coming out right now, and this story is just turning over and turning over and turning over, and there's all these reports and all this different information coming out. One thing I did see, and whether or not this is true, I don't know, I saw from a reputable source on Twitter that, and I'm hearing from people here at our station, that Matthew Sluka didn't have this agent until the season had started, and that this agent that Sluka just got recently isn't even licensed in the state of Nevada.
Wow.
It just throws a whole another wrinkle into what is already a mess of a story.
Right. It sounds like I just said, sounds like a guy who's going on an ego trip, who's now thinking all this stuff, the fact that Bryson Stott is wearing a UNLV football helmet in the Phillies clubhouse after clinching the NL East, it's not because of the team, it's because of me and what I'm doing to propel this team to victory. And now he's got maybe somebody on his shoulder, somebody in his ear, an agent telling him, hey, you could be making a lot more. You could be Cher. You could have a residency at, wherever you want. You could be, you're Bruno Mars. You're the greatest thing since, sliced bread. But no, that's not the situation. And moving forward, as we discussed on Sin City Beat this week, which I encourage you to check out and watch, a lot of people think potentially this is a blessing in disguise. This is a silver lining. Maybe this coming to light is the perfect thing for a team like this. It's going to bring them closer together. Maybe he's not the leader that you want at quarterback for a team like this. As you told me, James, guys like Jackson Woodard, Ricky White.
A lot of the players coming to Hodge Williams' aid right now, like, hey, this is a good thing.
I think it's going to bring them closer together, and I think that's all representative of a trickle-down effect with a coach. I think a guy like Barry Odom, he's not going to stand for this kind of crap. He's going to say it's next man up. It's, team first mentality. It's not about that type of attitude, and that's not the success of this team. And that's what's so appalling, is that this was not a guy who was balling out like Cam Ward is with the Miami Hurricanes. The Miami Hurricanes transfer portal getting Cam Ward, yes, they are a better team and in
With
number
Cam Ward,
7
no
in the
question.
country
Yeah.
because of Cam Ward. Yes,
100%.
we know that. That is not the case here.
No.
This is not Cam Ward coming to the rescue.
No, Matthew Sluka, I think, has a lot of talent with his arm, and obviously we've seen it with his legs. I'm not saying that Matthew Sluka can't throw the ball because he just doesn't have the arm talent. What has been his problem, at least from my perspective, the first 3 weeks of the season, is he can't drop back and deliver the football on time and in rhythm like you see like in a Mike McDaniel's offense in Miami. You know, it's a lot of, I got to do this thing off script or I can't do it at all. It's not for a lack of arm talent.
Right. And there's a lot of guys. Look, Caleb Williams, first pick of the draft. That's his problem. And he was the
Right.
first pick of the draft.
Yeah.
Is that can he play in rhythm and can he actually play on script? Or does he just have to roll out of the pocket every time
Right.
and do something with his legs and do something remarkable? So it's a big question. It's the biggest story facing UNLV.
You think about as bad as it looks right now and as bad as this timing is for at this historic juncture for UNLV, if they win on Saturday against Fresno State and continue to win and they don't really miss a step with Hajj Malik Williams, all of this goes away. We'll forget about this even happening if they continue to win these football games, and it would just be a testament to the people in that locker room and the staff and Barry Odom that he is all kind of put together.
100%. I can't say it any better than that. I'm losing my voice already, but I don't know.
It's so interesting.
I don't know how I'm going to do the fantasy goat tomorrow. I'm already losing my voice, getting all worked up here. Guys, what a great show. Thank you to Gus Wenner, great young kid, CEO of Rolling Stone, doing great stuff there. Make sure you go check out Life is Beautiful this weekend. Great lineup, a lot of interesting stuff with this whole block party element they're going to be doing for the first time. And of course, make sure you're staying tuned to everything we're doing on social media, as well as on fox5vegas.com, Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. We got so many great shows, so much great programming going on. So make sure you check us out there. Any last words, James? Anything you want to say before we depart?
Nothing. I just everything going on in Vegas right now. How about the sports city that this place is and has become?
I was gonna say it's how sad is it that I'm more worked up and distraught over Matt Sluka than my this girl I was seeing who kind of didn't ghost me but doesn't want to see me anymore.
You are a little bit more fired up over Matthew Sluka than this, which is crazy.
That's
unlike you.
I think that's a good thing. I guess I'm growing.
Maybe we're
up.
turning over a new leaf.
Yes. There you go. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on SOS. I have nothing else to say. My vocal cords cannot handle anything more. We'll see you next time here on SOS. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Mike Davis. That's James Edward Barrickman, the fourth. We'll see you next time here in the den at Fox 5 Studios.